So, this is, anybody know what month this is? There's two things going on.
Domestic violence.
Yep, there's another one.
Breast cancer awareness.
There you go. You guys up your bad? You catch your bad? Matches my eyes. No, so what I want to do, we just spend a few minutes, like later today, or this afternoon, 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock. They're doing a walk.
3:30.
So I don't want to just do something where we just talk about domestic violence, right? Everybody has a kickoff, and then they kind of go back doing what we. But we've done a domestic violence walk, North Precinct, South Precinct, Central Precinct. We have done. I want to do this roundtable today. We did our kickoff, and then we had a big WRAP party, right? WRAP, where we wrap these boxes and we put them out in different parts, and people donate. And I'm telling you, man, I learned a lot. I learned that domestic violence, it's good to have extra soap and toothpaste and Pampers. And,
Blankets.
yeah, I would have never thought of it. But people have to leave their home. That's things they need. So that's I don't want to just do one thing. Anybody might have seen, we had three till we wrecked one. We got 3 police cars out there that are purple, right? And they say domestic. Anybody seen that?
I think I have.
I have.
It's on the news, I think.
You saw it? Did you all see it?
I have a picture of one,
You have a picture of it?
I think.
Guess what? Guess who designed that?
Someone from here.
One of the young adult police commissioners, Destiny Wilson, designed that.
Destiny.
And she did.
Aw.
She's an
we have-
officer now.
We have 3 cars now that have domestic violence. We keep them year long. One in the north, one in the central, one in the south. Who was it that wrecked one the other day? North or central?
It was central, but it wasn't the officer's fault, right? I don't think it was the officer's fault.
$45,000 vehicle. City council will say, where's that money come to replace that? I don't budget that. We ain't supposed to be wrecking them like that. That's a good vehicle. But the point is, one of you all created that design. That's huge. That's huge. So tell me, domestic violence, does it happen in high schools?
Yes.
Often.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Boyfriend, girlfriend type things? Anybody, just,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Definitely happens, and because teenagers don't know how to keep their hands to themselves often.
Sure.
And it's more or less self-control and more about home discipline.
So like, it's like boyfriend, girlfriend relationship, one gets mad at the other and then a fight breaks out.
It could be either or. The girlfriend could be abusing the boyfriend, and the
Mhm.
boyfriend could be abusing the girlfriend.
And do you see it being more,
Online.
social media? Or stuff that people say, oh, I took a picture, or hey, you talking to this guy or you're talking to this girl? Or do you think it's more, you're only gonna be with me and no one else? What kind of things spark it?
That, and it's just like, in a relationship like that, you gotta have a female who wants to get out of the relationship and is trying to get positive outreach, and all her friends are trying to say that he's a good guy or whatever.
So the peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Is that real? Is that hard?
Peer pressure sucks.
Peer pressure is definitely real.
Oh, peer pressure sucks. I mean, sometimes there's good peer pressure and sometimes there's bad peer pressure.
Mhm.
Like, especially in my school, like if someone's not doing their work and they're just kind of struggling behind, everyone's just like, get your work done, come on, it's not that hard, and there'll be like, study session type things. So that kind of peer pressure is good, but I mean, if there's like you said before, with like, he's a good guy, you should stay with him, or convincing a friend to go out to a party or something like that, or doing something they're not supposed to, then that's bad. You
Yeah.
shouldn't do that.
Maybe that's something we need to talk about, is about how to handle peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
What about, so you guys, do you know, you don't have to give any names on it, but do you know people at your level, your age, that are in bad relationships, abusive relationships? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Where do young adults go for help? Or do they keep it inside? Do they go to social media? Do they write it down? Do they tell their friends?
Depends on that person.
Friends.
Yeah.
Depends on the person? Okay, friends?
Yeah, I know a lot of my friends come to me for things. to,
Close
like,
friends
be
and
advice
family.
on.
Close friends and family? So, I was 17 just a few years ago. So if I told one of you that I was in a domestic situation, what role do you all play? I mean, now I know what the right answer is. Oh, we should tell someone, but do you think, does that really happen?
No.
If it were me, and say one of my friends were in an abusive relationship or something along those lines, and they came to me to talk to it, I probably wouldn't go to someone else. I would try to talk to them because they trust me enough, and probably would take my advice. I'd be like, look, I'm coming to you as your friend, Carson Elron Jarman. And I'm gonna be like, you need to go. And when I'm talking to somebody and I'm actually not playing around, I'm being serious,
Yeah.
hopefully they understand
Yeah.
that they need to stop whatever they're doing. That guy is not good or that girl is not good. And you just need to leave the relationship.
Yep.
And some people are dangerous in the fact that if you leave, it could get worse. And in that case,
Wow.
when they leave and you were worried about that guy doing something, that's when you would tell an authority. Once you're out of the situation, and now you can be like, I don't trust this guy, can someone watch him? Someone keep an eye on this guy or this girl.
Like witness protection.
Yeah.
Don't we have that in the city?
Something like it. Not as much as I'd like to have. Anybody else got any comments on it?
I think a lot of younger people don't know how to go to their parents or how to talk about that type of stuff. That's why a lot of people hold it inside. Like a lot of issues that I was having, I didn't have anything as severe as that, but I was really uncomfortable with going to my parents because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to talk to my parents or talk to my friends. All I could do is complain about the issues that I was having to my friends without actually finding a solution. And I just found out the hard way how to figure it out. And I feel like there should be more resources for that type of stuff because, like I said, a lot of young people, especially you guys' age, and relationships, because it's everywhere and they just don't know who to go to or how to talk about it.
You hear him say, he said you guys' age.
I mean, he is
How old are you?
fairly awareness at
He
this
isn't
point.
lying.
Where'd you come from? You were a part of this group?
Yes, sir.
Where do you work now?
Property and evidence.
You got like a big age.
Piggybacking off of what he said, a lot of the time there's abusive tendencies in relationships, and all relationships have issues, right? Sometimes people don't even realize what they're doing, especially.
Oh, you're saying it's not always physical.
No, it's not.
What kind of other abuse is it?
Emotional.
Emotional, man.
Like in a relationship, there could be a guy that really has this female's he has her mindset, and has everything that she would want in a boyfriend. He just doesn't know how to behave properly, and he might do things that aren't appropriate, like mentally abuse her by using profane language or
Controlling, that kind of thing?
yeah.
Yeah. Who she talks to, what she can wear, same thing with, I think like you girls don't do it either, right? Who you talk to.
Yeah.
This is why I always say communication is key. Because
Oh
you
my
can't know
gosh,
what the
yes.
issue is unless you make it known. Like that's with any relationship, friendships, relationships with the love variety, and parents and things like that. If you don't tell them that it's an issue, they're not gonna know it's an issue. So I mean, having that open-endedness. I mean, even with my friends, if my friends are doing something that I don't like, I would tell them to don't do that. Or if I'm doing something that they don't like, I expect them to come to me. And sometimes it doesn't happen that way, and that can, build up animosity between people. And it's always sad when those things happen, because if you would have just said something, or if they had just said something, words just could have solved a lot of things. So
That's something that you can help your friends with, though. You know, like push that agenda. That communication is key, because that kind of goes back to what I was saying about people don't know how to go to people. Like it's as simple as saying words and talking about it, but a lot of people don't know how to do that. So that's where you can come in, like something as small as just telling your friends, hey, like you need to talk about something, just tell me. Some people just don't know that it's that simple. That all you need to say is just, hey, just talk to me, just say something about it.
So usually, like what I do is I'll take my best friend for example. So if I notice, if I come to sit next to her at lunch, I know she's a little bit, if I say, hey bestie, and she'll be like, hey, then I'll be like, hey, is something wrong? And then she'll be like, oh, maybe it's something. I was like, really?
Or you can
Are
read,
sure?
you read their actions and behavior, depending on how well you know them.
So, sometimes you don't know people like that. So, I mean, it's important to pay attention to the way people act and the way people behave. So you can, tell those kind of things. There are telltale signs, I won't get into that, but, sometimes you can't tell. So it's all about asking, communication. I cannot stress enough, communication is key in everything.
What about young people that grow up in abusive families, like where mom and dad, right, or partner, whatever, right, that are abusive one to another? Does that affect kids in school?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Cody, tell me, how can that affect someone, teenager?
Considering I'm one of those people who were affected, it can affect them physically, mentally, almost every single way. It depends on who the person is and how they can take a certain type of trauma or stress.
So you go to school, expected to learn, and then you think about going home, going back, what's it gonna be like tonight, what's gonna happen this weekend? Is sometimes school the best place to be? To be away from, or do you worry about one of the parents hurting the other? Worry about that? Anybody else?
I think someone already mentioned it, but I don't remember who said it already, but someone said, like, people who are in domestic, like, abusive relationships don't recognize that what they're doing is wrong in Lavender. Like, some people can't see that what they're doing is wrong. When you grow up in that type of environment, you kind of just, you see it as normal. So you start to do it to your partner and you don't recognize that what you're doing is hurting them.
Anybody else?
I mean, when things like that happen and you can't realize it, because sometimes it's like on both parts, like both people can't see that the relationship is unhealthy. Neither are looking for a way out, but they probably should or should change the reaction. Sometimes it's good for a third party to step in and be like, you guys need to stop that.
Yeah.
Like, that ain't it. So,
Yeah.
but if people don't have that third party and they just aren't open with their relationships and things like that, that can just kind of, I don't want to say inbreed, but just kind of
Well,
build up.
so building off what you're saying, if you're in that environment, if a young person grows up and sees that, do you think it affects them as they get older? Do you think they may have those tendencies, or think that's normal? What do y'all think?
They might think that their partner, it's normal for their partner to do it towards them because they saw mom and dad do it.
What do you think, Cameron? You've been awful quiet over there.
Sure. I think it would be just like any addiction. You see your parents drink alcohol, you see your parents smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, all these kind of things. Just something you'd probably do when you get older too.
I mean, on the flip side of that, if your parents are doing all of these things and you know that it's bad, then it could breed like even more hatred towards those things. Like if say your like mother or father are drinking all the time and you see how terrible that is for your family, that you might just get like super hatred towards it, or you might become like, say your like mother is abusing your father or vice versa, and you start to have relationships, you grow up and you don't want to be that way, so you just become, the opposite, overly doting and just overprotective, want to be the perfect boyfriend or girlfriend to the point where you just kind of destroy the relationship.
So we're saying, so it's saying important that our friends and people, if we see them acting different, to engage that, maybe ask some questions. We're saying that it doesn't just happen with adults, it happens at high school level and young people.
I feel like it happens even more so with the young people because we aren't fully developed yet mentally and emotionally. So we're both unstable and we're trying to,
Figure it
live
out.
with each other. Yeah. So, I mean, if you have two unstable pieces of something.
Do you see do you think it's easy for us as police officers to deal with domestic violence, or do you think it's one of the more challenging things?
More challenging.
More challenging.
Hard.
Or it could be,
What do you think is more challenging?
I mean, you have to involve yourself in the situation. You're not there, you weren't present when it's
That's
happening.
right, it's hard to see. So if we can all get in police cars today, right, we could all drive through every neighborhood, and it's hard to see between walls and closed doors what goes on inside, right? So we really have to rely on, if somebody hears something or says something, or one of your friends tells you something, or if you see something, right, if you see a young girl or young guy come to school and they're bruised or something like that, it's hard, we don't see that. Or things that happen behind doors, we don't, unless neighbors call, usually when we find out about it, something bad's already happened. Somebody's already been hurt. So I'll tell you what we did in this department. I wanted somehow, I didn't know how to do it. And that's okay, right? I didn't know how to do it. But I wanted a domestic violence unit. But I didn't know how to do it. So, but I don't think it could just be uniform, right? So we brought in 2 civilian, and what our plan was to have them do outreach, right? To go talk to high school students and college students in churches and organizations. And they've done that. They've gone to the shipyard. They've talked to 200 and some soldiers up at Fort Eustis. They've done some church events. But we found that individuals who had been assaulted started calling them and interacting. So originally they were kind of in the same division. If you haven't heard it, Lieutenant Morgan and Captain Tegens and the sergeant here, this is Community Youth and Outreach. And we put them here. But that lasted, I don't know, 2 weeks. And then they came to me and they said, Chief, this ain't the best fit. We either need our standalone or be down to special victims. So special victims is anything dealing with abuse inside a home, and a lot of stuff with juveniles, rape, and sexual assault victims. Some of the harder crimes to deal with. So we had them down there for a while, and they just kept growing and growing and growing. And meaning that more people would call. And now I got people from across the state, and now people from across the country calling. What is this domestic violence? How do they? So we created its own unit. Now they have a sergeant, 2 advocates, and a detective down on and that's all they do. Is they deal with referrals, they deal with people who call in, they deal with calls. So when Sergeant Webster goes to a call that me and Drew, we're married and we're arguing. We didn't hit each other. We just arguing, right? So before it gets physical or somebody gets hurt, he can make a referral, and one of those advocates might call you or me and talk to us on the phone. Is there anything we can do? How are things? Sometimes people are just waiting for somebody to ask, are you okay? Like when you were talking about how my friend's acting different, right? It might be for Tyson to go up to Cody and say, man, look, we're in commissioners, man. You okay? No, Cody may just unload. Or Cody may not. Cameron might, Lavender may not. We know something things are going on, and it's important for us to talk to somebody. Because I will tell you this, peer pressure aside, I would much rather Carson be mad at me and not be my friend anymore because I said something. And walk through a neighborhood on a Wednesday afternoon, Carson ain't here anymore. Carson ain't here anymore. Because you know what Carson's mom's going to say? Or Steve's mom's going to say? Sergeant Goss's mom's going to say? If you knew what was going on, why didn't you say something? And it's too late. And in this city, there's been way too much of too late. Way too much of that.